Enzo Maresca is continuously and endlessly criticised and questioned and doubted by parts of the Chelsea fanbase, but yet again he silences the critics. A 3-0 humbling of Barcelona adds to his tally of big game wins, but Chelsea as a whole were absolutely superb. A perfectly executed game plan, executed fantastically by the sheer volume of output by every player in blue, exposing Barcelona and Hansi Flick big time. Let's have a look at how they did it and get into some analysis. Now, coming into this game, I had a feeling that Chelsea under the Stamford Bridge Champions League nights were cooking up something spicy here. No Pedri, just 3 clean sheets all season long and 3 conceded in their last Champions League outing. Barcelona were there to be beaten, especially with that high line. Maresca, before a big tactical showdown, in fact any tactical showdown, does his homework. He goes away and watches a lot of football, quite extensively in some cases. From his Barcelona homework he would have learnt many things, but some key takeaways would resolve around the technical excellence around Barcelona's core, the freedom of which Barcelona attackers operate with, the fast end-to-end matchups Barcelona experience on a weekly basis, the intensity and non-intensity from their wingers off the ball, and in particular that high line. It's been the key talking point. I mean, any extensive high line is always a talking point. Whether that's Ange Postecoglou or Hansi Flick, it's always sticking out like a sore thumb. The idea of the overly high line is supposed to support a possessionally dominant team. Flick wants his team to dominate, control and share all of the ball. When Barcelona don't have the ball, the idea is for them to push the tempo, win the ball back as soon as possible. This way, they've got the ball again, they've got control again. Flick fuels this intention with his defensive line pushing very high up, with the fullbacks in possession pondering very far forwards in the attacking phase, but engaging towards the ball in order to deny a turnover. Pouncing on the opposition immediately, looking to utilise those attackers that are very high up. Barcelona are uncomfortable when possession is stripped off them. However, unfortunately, you live and die by this tactic. It heavily relies on the personnel, the right players, but also and most importantly, it relies on sharpness, dominating duels, winning 50-50s and every single knockdown. Barcelona in La Liga recently have not quite been doing this so dominantly, leading to various counter-attacks, but they have rode their fortune due to their individual attacking quality and La Liga attackers not being as clinical as Champions League ones. Every game is an end-to-end basketball game. Players constantly running up and down, struggling for control. Flick's side do create a lot of chances, it just comes at the expense of potentially conceding quite a few at the same time. So your goalkeeper needs to make a lot of saves, and the opposition attackers, well, you've just got to hope they're not very clinical. On the contrary, Maresca is a modern day manager that loves control. He loves possession. He doesn't want an end-to-end chaotic basketball game. So how exactly did Enzo Maresca defeat this, nullify this in a master plan fashion? Now, before we slide into how Chelsea defeated that massively high line, we're going to talk about Chelsea off the ball, because Barcelona in all of their technical excellence were completely and utterly nullified, and a lot of credit goes to Enzo Maresca. So this was Chelsea off the ball and this was Barcelona on the ball. If we just attach every single player to their man, you had Garnacho onto Koundé, as you'd expect, Cucurella, who had an amazing game, completely nullifying Lamine Yamal. James onto De Jong, you had Neto onto the red carded centre-back. That was a poor challenge. Fernandes onto Garcia, you had Chalobah onto Lewandowski, who had a quite good game. I'm quite critical of Chalobah, but he was pretty good. And then this is where it differs with Fofana and Gusto. Chelsea did something very well, and what they did is that they limited right side progression down Lamine Yamal's sides. It was down that left flank that Barcelona had a lot of progression within that first half. They couldn't really get the ball to Lamine Yamal. You had Fermin Lopez, who likes that right half space a little bit more, so Moises Caicedo was within this area. Chelsea's two most aggressive players in Cucurella and Caicedo are close to Lamine Yamal, so this forced Barcelona down this left side. Esteval, the right winger, was attached to Kabasi in possession. So Esteval, the right winger, you might expect is attached to Balde, but he went over to press Kabasi, which obviously leaves that pass to Balde. This is how Chelsea forced them down this side. From then, it's very important what Chelsea do. Malo Gusto is a very athletic right back. He is a quick sprinter and he has so much energy. Maresca uses his energy as a key tool because Malo Gusto jumps all the way over to Balde. He leaves Ferran Torres, and this means that Wesley Fofana shifts across. It's man to man, it's very well coordinated and it worked very well. Now Balde a few times did beat Malo Gusto. It was that drive inside where Balde had shades of Alphonso Davies a few years ago at Stamford Bridge, but Malo Gusto was genuinely really energetic and he did such a good job of closing him down. Ferran Torres didn't have much success against Wesley Fofana, so obviously what is this going to do? So Barcelona are trapped here. They don't really want to go backwards, they're quite a direct, fluid playing team, so they want to play the ball within this area, the centre. And then again, this is where Barcelona struggled a lot, because in this area, who was picking up those recoveries? Who was winning those duels? Who was winning the second balls? It was Moises Caicedo and it was Reece James. Two elite ball and duel winners. They were so sharp, and Moises Caicedo alone was absolutely fantastic. You could have just had Caicedo there and he would have covered Barcelona completely. They were just not getting anything, and this led to so many turnovers where Chelsea could push up, get the ball into Esteval in the right half space and completely and utterly nullify Barcelona. It was brilliantly well executed. Now this was so clever for me because I think the use of Esteval here was really interesting. Esteval at 18 years of age, as we know, is an amazing player, but in terms of reactions, in terms of his understanding of the off-the-ball nature to a team, I don't think he's quite as good as Pedro Neto, which is probably why Maresca opts for him a little bit more. Esteval isn't as clued up as Pedro Neto to players running around him and tracking onto players. So giving Esteval a little bit more less of a sophisticated role and pouring that energy and athleticism towards Gusto was a really good way of using him, because on the turnover he was then closer to the ball. So Chelsea limited that right side progression and then trapped Barcelona in the middle. It was brilliantly well executed, but it was all due to the physicality and sharpness of that Chelsea midfield. Having Reece James and Moises Caicedo in these zones was absolutely key to Barcelona being nullified. But it wasn't just out of possession where Chelsea killed them, it was in possession, and as we know, a lot happens here, particularly with Barcelona's high line. Now Chelsea playing out against Barcelona were genuinely quite sound. They had one error early on where Ferran Torres should have scored, but besides that, Barcelona and their pressing didn't really cause them any problems. It was very interesting to me because you had Chalobah shifting, Fofana, you had Cucurella fairly out wide, but it was this midfield three that was very interesting because within build-up, Malo Gusto would slowly drift in, meaning Caicedo would slowly drift in. It was basically a three in midfield from deep, with Reece James being a little bit deeper. Reece James is comfortable receiving the ball in these zones, but it also meant it was a bit of a 1-2. It was that midfield three in midfields that was dictating against Barcelona. It was really good. You had Reece James from deep, who was able to pick out forward passes and of course direct passes, but Ferran Torres isn't going to track onto Gusto from here. Cucurella's movements, Yamal is not going to track onto that as well, so it was fairly simple for Chelsea to get in behind them, and Malo Gusto's movement for me was really key within this next phase. The next phase is something I'm calling flaunting flick. Operation Flaunt Flick worked absolutely amazingly, and it's all about how Chelsea use movement and the channels. As you've seen, we've progressed up the pitch quite a little bit, and as you can see, we've got a lot of players forward. You've got Garnacho, Fernandes, Neto, Estevao, Gusto. Estevao was often drifting inside to that right half space, pulling away Balde and attaching himself a little bit to Kibasi, allowing for a lot of room for Malo Gusto on the overlap. But the movement of Gusto was so key here because Balde was wary of him. He was attaching himself to him, and it was creating mass confusion for Balde. He didn't really know who to track with Estevao dropping in, but it was also coming in on the inside as well and making ghosting runs for Reece James to find him behind. But Gusto wasn't the only one who was moving. Enzo Fernandez was making relentless third man runs in between Koundé and the centre back. He was constantly in and around here. He'd sometimes drop in deep and then bang, he would run inside. Jules Koundé is a good right back. He's very good, but he is guilty of defending far too narrowly at times, so he would attach himself to Enzo Fernandez quite a lot in these runs that he made, curving runs where he made towards Pedro Neto a little bit more, which would create the switch for Garnacho quite a lot of the time. Neto again made so many channel runs that were really relentless, pulling Kibasi away from Estevao, who had a lot of space created by Pedro Neto and Malo Gusto. So Estevao had two players creating space for him, but all of this is executed because of the timing of the pass from Reece James quite a lot of the time. Sometimes it was Caicedo, even Cucurella or Chalobah or Fofana, but it's all about the timing of the pass. And as you expect, Barcelona's high line within this area were just being relentlessly killed off. It was so difficult for them to contain, and all of Chelsea and their movement was just relentless in so many different ways. Whenever the ball was switched out wide to Alejandro Garnacho, sometimes you had Pedro Neto, or in the second half, Liam Delap already in an offside position. Maresca, as we know, as we've established, watches a lot of football. He would have picked this up against Rayo Vallecano, because this is what Rayo Vallecano did against Barcelona. They exploited that high line, and they did it in such an amazing circumstance. They had quite a lot of players dropping in deep against the high line, as you can see on your screen, but also players from deep who were going to run in behind. So the players that are deep are going to be attracted by the Barcelona back line, not the ones that are running in behind. So there are so many different ways in order to exploit this back line, and if the pass wasn't well executed and the pass was headed away from Kibasi or intercepted, then hello, Caicedo and Reece James pivot is going to win you back the ball. The counter press was amazing against Barcelona. It was constant, it was relentless, and it was horrible for Barcelona to deal with. There was the constant exposure of that high line. Reece James does deserve a lot of credit here because the timing of the passes met with the timing of the runs from Neto, even from Estevao at times, from Gusto ghosting in, from Fernandes, from Garnacho was absolutely fantastic. With Koundé dropping in so narrow, it created so much space for Garnacho, which would open up the 1v1, the isolated 1v1 for Alejandro Garnacho, creating space for Enzo Fernandez, of course. Cucurella could ghost in as well, but it was so good. The key players I thought in this phase were Reece James, of course, Estevao, Gusto, and Enzo Fernandez. They were all relentless in their roles. Neto and his curved run, Fernandes and his curved run created so many problems for Barcelona. But as we've talked about, not every pass is going to be very good. It's going to be headed away, some may be offside, some may be headed back in. So I think Cucurella, Caicedo and Reece James deserve a lot of credit. They stopped it from becoming an end-to-end basketball affair. Cucurella springing forward once the ball came to Yamal whenever he dropped deep was absolutely crucial. Caicedo just sweeping up, not allowing Fermin Lopez to have anything all night long. And then Reece James, in all his physicality, in all of his might, did such a good job. It was a perfectly executed game plan by the players, but a perfect game plan by Enzo Maresca. It shifted away from his usual principles of short passes and control, as there was the relentless exposure of that high line due to the direct passes, the switches, the long balls into the channels. It was something we've not quite seen from Enzo Maresca on a consistent basis, but he understood how to exploit this Barcelona high line, shifted away from his principles and got the very best out of this Chelsea team. It led to 3 goals and 3 or 4 disallowed goals, which was absolutely crazy. Chelsea thrashed them. Props to Maresca and props to so many of those players, including Estevao. His excellence, his individual brilliance is absolutely amazing. Thank you guys for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, feel free to smash a like and subscribe to the channel. What do you think of the game? What did you think of Estevao? What do you think of Enzo Maresca? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. It was a great game. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.